Ever wondered which Star Wars vehicles could actually exist in our world? We're talking about 10 incredible machines from that galaxy far, far away that engineering could genuinely bring to life in the next decade or two. Imagine cruising to work in a landspeeder or patrolling the highways on a speeder bike. The technology is closer than you think, with hovercraft, jet engines, and military innovations pushing us toward that Star Wars future. But here's the twist. Some of these vehicles would revolutionize transportation as we know it, while others would be absolute disasters that could never pass a single safety regulation. We're diving deep into the tech, lore, and cold hard truth about which Star Wars rides deserve to exist and which ones should stay in the movies. Let's kick things off with Luke Skywalker's iconic ride from Tatooine, the X-34 Landspeeder. Soros Sub Corporation designed these beauties to float about a meter off the ground using repulsor lift technology, reaching speeds of 250 km per hour. Companies like Aerofex have already developed hover bikes operating on similar ground effect principles, making this the most achievable vehicle on our list. Here's what makes the X-34 brilliant. 3 repulsor lift engines provide redundancy, so if one fails, you've still got 2 keeping you airborne. Luke's beat-up model costs just 10,550 credits, second-hand, because of a faulty repulsor lift motivator. That's like buying a used Honda with dodgy transmission. But here's the controversial part. Landspeeders are incredibly dangerous. Canon materials confirm they require constant maintenance, repulsor lift fields malfunction over uneven terrain, and one impact at 250 km per hour means no crumble zones or airbags to save you. The real-world version needs ducted fans or electromagnetic levitation. MIT has prototyped magnetic levitation vehicles, but the killer issue is energy consumption. Those compact Star Wars power cells don't exist here. Current battery technology would make your landspeeder weigh as much as a small car while running maybe 30 minutes. Still, imagine farmers traversing rocky terrain without roads or military rapid deployment across challenging environments. The X-34 might look beat up, but it represents genuinely achievable transport technology. If you think landspeeders are cool, wait until you see what's coming next, because we're about to talk about something way faster and infinitely more dangerous. The Imperial Scout Trooper's 74Z speeder bike from that insane Endor chase is the most exhilarating vehicle in Star Wars. Aratech Repulsor Company built these military speeders to hit 500 km per hour while hovering up to 25 meters off the ground. That's faster than most helicopters at a fraction of the size. Here's the dirty secret, they're death traps by design. The Empire prioritized speed over safety, which is exactly why Scout Troopers crash into trees so easily. Zero protection, no seatbelts in most models, and steering requires superhuman precision at high speed. Legends material reveals speeder bike training had one of the highest casualty rates in the Imperial military. They weren't kidding around. But imagine owning one. The 74Z uses a single repulsor lift engine with directional vanes, mechanically simpler than a landspeeder. We'd build these using turbofan engines like Frankie Zapata's jet-powered hoverboard that crossed the English Channel, combined with gyroscopic stabilization and fly-by-wire controls. Military special forces could deploy through forests where helicopters couldn't go. Law enforcement could pursue suspects through impossible terrain. The problem? These things would never pass civilian safety standards. The noise alone violates every sound ordinance, and insurance companies would laugh you out. The 74Z represents pure speed over safety, and that's exactly its appeal. Imperial doctrine limited altitude to 25 meters for better sensor contact with ground targets, though the bike could reach 75 meters. These were war tools, not toys. Speaking of insane speed and questionable safety decisions, our next vehicle makes speeder bikes look downright sensible. Podracing from the Phantom Menace features vehicles that are giant engines with a cockpit bolted on as an afterthought. Anakin Skywalker's Podracer hit 947 km per hour, powered by 2 Radon-Ulzer 620C engines connected to the cockpit by energy binders. The whole contraption is held together by cables and prayer. Here's what makes Podracers fascinating. They're deliberately unsafe. The Hutts designed the sport specifically for danger, creating gambling opportunities when pilots died spectacularly. Most Podracers lasted maybe 5 races before catastrophic failure. Anakin was unique because he built his own from scavenged parts and actually maintained it. Most were thrown together by mechanics who cared more about raw speed than pilot survival. Could we build one? Absolutely, and it would kill you on the first run. The basic concept is 2 jet engines pulling a cockpit. The thrust SSC broke the sound barrier on land in 1997 using 2 Rolls-Royce turbofans. The problem isn't the engines, it's control. Those energy binders are electromagnetic tethers allowing independent engine control while maintaining stability. We don't have that. In reality, you'd need physical connections, dramatically increasing weight and complexity. Anakin's steered by adjusting thrust differential between engines while using control surfaces, requiring superhuman reflexes. The controversial part? Pod racers are useless for anything except entertainment. They're not transportation or military vehicles, just pure spectacle. Fuel consumption would be astronomical, noise would shatter windows, and the learning curve would kill 99% of pilots. Yet there's beauty in that commitment to pure speed and danger. If you thought pod racers were impractical, buckle up because our next vehicle redefines massive overkill. The all-terrain armored transport is perhaps the most iconic military vehicle in Star Wars. Standing 22.5 meters tall and stretching over 20 meters long, these four-legged behemoths deliver 40 Imperial troops plus speeder bikes while terrifying rebel forces. The Battle of Hoth showcased their psychological impact as they marched like unstoppable metal monsters. Here's what military historians always point out. AT-ATs are terrible military vehicles by practical standards. They're slow at just 60 kilometers per hour. They're vulnerable to tripping, as Luke's tow cable demonstrated. Top-heavy design makes them easy to knock over. The neck is a massive weak point, and the underbelly has minimal armor. Rebel forces should have obliterated these things. So why build them? Intimidation. Pure psychological warfare. Quat drive yards designed the AT-AT to make enemies feel helpless. When you see a 22-meter tall metal monster walking toward you, rational thought evaporates. Emperor Palpatine specifically wanted troops that crushed morale, despite the astronomical cost that could have funded dozens of more practical vehicles. Can we build one? Yes, but pointlessly. Boston Dynamics proves walking robots navigate complex terrain better than wheeled vehicles sometimes. The problems are energy consumption and vulnerability. Walking vehicles expose all locomotion systems to enemy fire, whereas tanks protect everything behind armor. The height makes AT-ATs visible from kilometers, and modern anti-tank weapons could shred one instantly. Still, imagine walking platforms navigating disaster zones where roads are destroyed. Civilian applications actually make more sense than military ones. From impractical intimidation machines to something even more questionable, let's talk about a vehicle that seems cool until you think about it for 5 seconds. The twin ion engine fighter represents everything wrong and right about Imperial design, crammed into one screaming ball of death. With atmospheric speeds of 1200 km per hour and space speeds reaching 100 mglt, TIE fighters were fast, maneuverable, and cheap to manufacture by millions. Scion fleet systems designed them to overwhelm enemies through sheer numbers while keeping costs low enough that losing fighters didn't matter. Here's the controversial truth. TIE fighters are flying coffins. No hyperdrive, no landing gear in most models, no life support, no shields. Pilots wear full flight suits because the cockpit isn't pressurized. If anything goes wrong, you're dead. The TIE Infighter has such abysmal survival rates that TIE pilots had lower life expectancy than frontline stormtroopers. The Empire literally treated pilots as expendable as ammunition. But from pure engineering standpoint, they're brilliant. Ion engines provide incredible thrust-to-weight ratios. The ball cockpit offers 360-degree visibility. The solar panels collect energy to supplement the power generator, giving impressive operational range despite limited fuel. Everything prioritizes performance and cost efficiency over pilot survival, perfect for an authoritarian regime with unlimited recruits. Could we build one for Earth's atmosphere? Those solar panels would create enormous drag and structural stress. We'd need turbofans or ramjets instead of ion engines. The ball cockpit works for visibility, but add proper life support, ejection systems, and armor. The result would look like a TIE, but function more like an experimental aircraft. The real application is space exploration. If we develop spacecraft for atmospheric operations, the modular design philosophy makes sense. If you think the Empire's design choices were questionable, wait until you hear about the next vehicle's legitimate engineering brilliance. The Incom T-65B X-Wing Starfighter represents the perfect counter to everything wrong with TIE fighters. This beauty packs proton torpedoes, 4 laser cannons, deflector shields, hyperdrive capability, and an astromech droid for repairs and navigation, all while maintaining impressive speed and maneuverability. The distinctive S-foil wings split into attack position, increasing weapon coverage and heat dissipation. Incom Corporation created a masterpiece, and the Empire knew it. When they realized what Incom developed, they tried nationalizing the company. Lead engineers defected to the Rebel Alliance, bringing X-Wing plans with them. That single act of corporate espionage changed the Galactic Civil War. The X-Wing gave the Rebellion a starfighter matching or exceeding the TIE performance while providing hyperspace capability, meaning Rebel pilots could jump to safety rather than dying in every engagement. Here's what makes the X-Wing fascinating. It's over-engineered in the best way. 4 independent engine systems provide redundancy. The wings separate to increase targeting angles. The astromech serves as flight engineer, navigator, and damage control. It's a Swiss Army knife approach that somehow works perfectly. Building an X-wing for Earth presents challenges. The S-foil mechanisms make sense for space heat dissipation, but creates atmospheric drag. 4 engines are excessive, but redundancy is never bad. The real problem is missing technology. Deflector shields don't exist. Hyperdrive is fiction. Proton torpedoes are fancy missiles. But the airframe design, control systems, and AI assistant approach are absolutely applicable. Modern jets already use thrust vectoring and sensor fusion similar to astromech assistance. From the perfect starfighter to something that's perfect for completely different reasons, our next vehicle is all about living in style. The Millennium Falcon isn't just a vehicle, it's a character and home. This heavily modified YT-1300F light freighter could make 0.5 past light speed after Han's modifications, a speed that should be impossible for a stock freighter. Corellian Engineering Corporation designed the YT-1300 series as reliable cargo haulers, but Han and Chewbacca turned this one into something completely different through decades of modifications, many of questionable legality. Here's what people don't understand. It's held together by sheer stubbornness and mechanical genius. The ship has been blown up, crash-landed, had pieces replaced with incompatible parts, and subjected to modifications voiding every warranty in the galaxy. The hyperdrive fails constantly because Han installed a military-grade unit into a civilian power grid never designed for that load. The sensor dish gets knocked off every other movie. Systems fail regularly, yet somehow it keeps flying. The Falcon represents something beautiful about human engineering, refusing to accept limitations. Every modification solved a problem or pushed performance beyond stock specs. Concussion missile tubes for firepower, military-grade deflector shields for smuggling protection, overpowered hyperdrive for escaping Imperial entanglements. This is a ship built through necessity, creativity, and complete disregard for manufacturer recommendations. Could we build the Falcon? In atmosphere, the disc-shaped design creates serious aerodynamic problems. The asymmetric cockpit placement challenges piloting. But as spacecraft for actual space travel? Disc shapes provide good internal volume. The offset cockpit gives visibility. The modular design allows repairs and upgrades. From the scrappy underdog to the ultimate expression of Imperial excess, let's talk about something absolutely massive. The Imperial I-class Star Destroyer represents the ultimate symbol of Imperial power. At 1,600 meters long, these massive warships carried 72 TIE fighters, 20 AT-ATs, 30 AT-STs, and over 37,000 crew members. Quat drive yards built these monsters to dominate entire star systems through sheer presence. When an Imperial Star Destroyer drops out of hyperspace above your planet, you surrender or you die. Here's the controversial take. Star Destroyers are inefficient uses of resources. The Empire could have built dozens of smaller, more flexible ships for each Star Destroyer's cost. The massive crew requirement means losing one represents catastrophic personnel losses. The wedge shape creates targeting areas where weapons have limited firing arcs. The conning tower is a massive weak point rebel forces exploit constantly, as Admiral Akbar's Battle of Endor strategy demonstrated. But nobody cares about efficiency when ruling a galaxy through fear. The Star Destroyer's entire purpose is psychological warfare at fleet scale. The name itself is propaganda. These aren't defensive ships. They destroy other vessels and project power. The wedge shape creates an axe blade appearance driving into enemy formations. The massive size makes smaller ships seem insignificant. Could we build one? Not in space currently, but the concept of massive mobile command centers applies to naval warfare. Aircraft carriers serve similar roles. Mobile bases projecting power across vast distances, carrying numerous smaller craft and serving as fleet command centers. The USS Gerald R. 4 carries 75 aircraft with over 4,500 crew, basically a Star Destroyer scaled for Earth's oceans. If massive intimidation machines are your thing, we're not done yet, because our next vehicle combines grace with engineering elegance. Here's one for deep lore fans. The Storm 4 twin-pod cloud car from Bespin might seem like background decoration from The Empire Strikes Back, but these things represent some of the most practical vehicle design in Star Wars. Bespin Motors created these atmospheric patrol craft specifically for gas giant operations. They got almost everything right. The twin-pod design separates pilot and weapons systems into independent modules connected by an armored repulsor lift engine assembly. This provides redundancy. If one pod is damaged, the other can potentially maintain stability. Each pod has its own repulsor lift engine backup. The ion cannon configuration provides enough firepower for patrol duties without excess weight. Cloud cars were designed for 8-hour patrol shifts in Bespin's upper atmosphere, requiring reliability and pilot comfort over raw performance. Here's what makes cloud cars genuinely interesting. They solve real atmospheric patrol problems intelligently. Twin pod configuration provides better visibility than single cockpits. The spacing between pods creates stability in turbulent atmosphere conditions. The modular design allows easy maintenance, just swap out damaged pods. Lando Calrissian's wing guard used these effectively because they matched mission requirements perfectly. For our final vehicle, we're going back to grassroots racing and civilian life with something that deserves way more attention. The Biker Advanced Recon Commando Speeder represents peak military speeder bike design from the Clone Wars era. Aratech Repulsor Company built these for clone troopers needing rapid reconnaissance and quick response capability. Maximum speed of 520 km per hour, improved stability over the 74Z, and actual safety features because clone troopers were expensive to produce and the Republic couldn't afford losing them to training accidents. Here's what separates BARC speeders from Imperial bikes. The Republic actually cared if their riders survived. The BARC featured enhanced repulsor lift stability systems, better handling at high speeds, and could be modified for different terrain types. Some models had sidecars for additional personnel or equipment. The steering mechanism was more intuitive, requiring less superhuman reflexes. Clone commanders like Commander Neo used these on Salu Kami with significantly higher survival rates than Imperial scout troopers. The controversial part? BARC speeders are superior to the 74Z in almost every measurable way, but fans prefer the Imperial version because it looks cooler and has that iconic Endor chase. The BARC is objectively better engineering, safer, more versatile, easier to maintain, but the 74Z is what everyone remembers. This is the eternal struggle between good design and cool aesthetics. Could we build BARC speeders today? They're more achievable than the 74Z because safety features are easier to implement with current technology. So there you have it, 10 Star Wars vehicles that we could genuinely bring to life with current or near future technology. From Luke's beat-up landspeeder to massive Star Destroyers, each one teaches us something about engineering, design philosophy, and the eternal balance between practicality and pure awesome spectacle. Some of these, like the X-34 and BARC speeder, could revolutionize transportation within decades. Others, like the AT-AT and Podracer, probably shouldn't exist outside controlled environments, if at all. The real magic of Star Wars vehicles isn't just that they look cool, it's that they make us imagine what's possible. Every engineer who grew up watching these movies is now working to create hovercraft, walking robots, or advanced aircraft inspired by these designs. We might not have repulsor lift tech yet, but we're pushing the boundaries of what's achievable because someone showed us what could exist. If you enjoyed this deep dive into these vehicles, make sure to click the link in the description to check out our previous video. And before you go, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started exploring which Star Wars tech could actually exist in our world. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Until then, may the Force be with you, and maybe someday, may the Landspeeder be in your garage.